speak, mouth noises, blah blah.
Alright.
Hey guys, this is Jay from Bloodbath Beyond, and this is the Riff of the Week. This week I want to go over the breakdown for Metallica's Damage Incorporated. Most people know a lot of Metallica's most popular songs, Unforgiven, Enter Sandman, The Nine. Some of you might know some of their older stuff, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets. This is one I feel like is worthy of going over because most people really don't know it. Anyway, let's see what's going on here. Let's hear how it sounds. So to break down this breakdown, there's three main key points here. First of all, downstrokes. James Hetfield uses downstrokes exclusively. He can do 16th notes, 32nd notes at some tempos. The downstroking is key here, and you'll see why later. The second part of this is going to involve downstroking between two strings. We're going to be using our low E and A strings respectively. You want to get down to a pattern like this. Starts off chugging between the E and A string. All downstrokes, you're going to use your low E and its octave on the 7th fret on the A, followed by the F and then the D. To tie this riff together, after all of your chugging between both strings, we're going to end with our flat 5, which is B flat in this case, on the 6th fret of your low E. You can look at this at one of two ways. You could see this as E Phrygian with a borrowed flat 5, which is B flat in this case. You could also see this as E Locrian with a borrowed natural 5, which would be B in this case. Altogether, it sounds like this. The second part of this riff only lasts 1 bar. The first part lasts 3 respectively, completing a total of 4 bars. So we start off the same way with chugging the low E, followed by the 7th fret on the A, the 8th fret on the A string, and the 5th fret. From here we start descending in minor thirds, from F to D, from E to C, and then from D to B, which is your 8th fret to your 5th, your 7th fret to your 3rd, and your 5th fret to your 2nd. On your 2nd fret we're just going to make that a full-fledged B5 power chord. It'll sound like this. Now here's the third technique as I described. The first one being the downstroke is key. The second one, downstroking between two strings. Now it gets a little more complicated, but the sheer genius of James Hetfield comes out here. There's a triplet created between two strings. Most of the time it sounds like a pretty typical metal riff like you might hear in this. In this case, he splits that triplet between two strings. The triplet is created between your A and your E. You're hitting twice on the A and once on your E string. Fretting correctly creates the riff. This is what it will look like in slow motion. What not to do. I've taught a lot of people this riff before, and they try to hack it on the low E string entirely, and it doesn't work because you have to lift your palm in between notes. They try to hit all the notes on the low E string, you know. They want the octave here, and they just want to chug on one string. Not to mention getting back down to the flat 5. This large sliding distance leaves a lot of room for error. I just recommend highly against it. James Hetfield is a very efficient rhythm guitar player, and he likes to keep everything tight right within his range. The other problem too is, you gotta lift your wrist in between, because there's open notes that ring out, where between your palm mutes, and then lastly too, on your low E, you got this really warm bassy kind of sound, whereas the real punch and attack from this riff comes from that, chugging on that A string, that triplet on the A string. It's a lot more tight and punchier, Get this warm bassy sound, it almost gets muddled, and next thing you know, your bassist is louder than you, and you probably don't want that. So pulling it all together, remember, downstroking is key, making sure we move between both strings correctly, adding the triplet, making sure that we get that 2 notes on the A string and that down chug on the E string, putting the riff all together and bringing it up to speed, and you're on your way. Well guys, hope you learned a lot from this. Remember, that triplet string splitting technique, man, there's just such a level of genius in that, and I feel like us as metal musicians have totally not tapped into this technique. I'd love to see what kind of riffs you write based on this. Until next time, this has been the Riff of the Week. I can't talk while I'm playing guitar at the same time.
Fireworks or whatever. Little late reaction.